The fire he displayed in his junior year at East Bank High School raged across the state the following season. Averaging 34 points, West set a single-season scoring record. The word was out from Wheeling to Morgantown.
I can remember walking the streets of Charleston. You'd be on one side of Capitol Street with West, and people on the other side of the street said, "There goes West." You know, it's amazing. Everybody knowed him.
And he could do magic with the basketball. You know, just stop and go up on a dime and shoot the ball real quick and shoot over 50% from out about 18 feet. I'd never seen anything like that before.
In 1956, West again led his high school into the state playoffs.
We were in the finals of the regional, down 1 point to Huntington.
We called timeout and set up a play with Jerry. Jerry said, "I can get the tap, you know, I'll tap it to Jack Landers."
And I was like, I guess 6'3", and he's like 6'7", and I knew I could get the jump. And, you know, I just said, "Look, I'm going to get this tap, and I'm just going to tap it to forward because everyone wouldn't think I could get the jump."
It was perfect. Jerry tapped the ball to Jack, and he laid it up with a guy all over him, and it dropped through, and we won the ball game.
At the state's Final Four, West faced another All-Star, Willie Akers.
He was supposed to be the player of the year in the state tournament, and we were sort of got there by accident.
He ended up scoring 43, 44 points against us in the state tournament, in the semifinals of the state tournament, and he was just unstoppable.
The outcome probably influenced my life maybe more than anything. All of a sudden, I said to myself, you know, I'm pretty good.
Coming in to play the championship game on Saturday, our coach walked into the dressing room and he said, "I need to say something before you go out on the floor." He said, "I saw this kid last night, West, I think is his name. Now, I want you to understand something, that he had a great game and he scored a lot of points, but I don't want you to be concerned, because one man will never beat five."
With 39 points, West lifted his teammates to the state championship.
The next day is when East Bank, West Virginia was named West Bank for a day, because East Bank High School was Jerry West at that time.
It's here. Inside is unlimited strength and power. This is Bowflex, an entire gym and one easy-to-use machine. So powerful, it delivers over 60 health club quality.
In '97, she did my best friend's wedding. It was so cute. She smiled, Julia Roberts smiled, Cameron smiled, Julia smiled, teeth everywhere. It should have been called my best friend's dentist. Something about Mary made things hilarious that...
Perfect.
Despite scholarship offers from colleges across the country, the 18-year-old decided to stay close to home. But when West arrived at the West Virginia campus in Morgantown, he missed Cabin Creek so much he might have been halfway around the world.
It's hard to be homesick for a town of 500 people, but I was terribly disillusioned by being away from home. I just was so quiet and so shy that I became more introverted. Every day was like a struggle to get through.
My first concern from his shyness was he might get homesick and go home, and that was a definite concern that we had.
He lived with a lady named Ann Donardi that was on the drugstore, and that's where, that summer, she took care of him.
He was so shy. When he first came to my house, he ran off. He left the school. And the other basketball players came and told me, "Jerry has gone home. He quit school."
So he went back home, and they were a little worried about him. But anyway, he said there was no problem, he was coming back. So we got there as freshmen, and we enjoyed it.
He wasn't the life of the party because he wasn't at the party.
We lived probably 100 yards from the field house, and we would play. Everybody would have games for 3 or 4 hours, and we'd go on home, and he'd be there practicing on the shooting. 2 or 3 hours later, here he comes. He just finished up.
West led the freshmen to an undefeated season, and he was tagged the heir apparent to All-American Hot Rod Hundley.
The toughest guy ever guarded me when I was in college was Jerry West when he was a freshman.
Hot Rod couldn't handle Jerry, and Jerry definitely could handle him.
I knew that he was going to be absolute superstar galore. You know, you could just see it.
He could let you go by him and then block your shot against the board. He got up so quick. He was really a good jumper at that time. He could get way over the rim.
In December 1957, 7 games into West's collegiate career, West Virginia surprised Kentucky in the Wildcats Holiday Tournament. As if to erase any doubt, West led the Mountaineers to a second upset the very next night. They ended North Carolina's 37-game winning streak.
Awesome the way he played in that tournament, and that's when they found out what a player he was. I don't think he had a lot of notoriety at first 5 or 6 games.
They had this big gold and blue carpet that led from their bench right out to the jump ball circle. And when they introduced the home team, they would run out on this carpet. And of course, they always introduced Jerry West last.
Number 44 from Hampton Creek, West Virginia.
They might as well said the number 44, Jesus Christ from heaven.
Villanova's Raveling was among the first African Americans to play against West Virginia on their home floor.
Jerry brought the ball up the floor, and he made a couple moves and drove the basket, and Raveling kind of took him down pretty hard.
And silence went over the place. And I'm thinking to myself, dear God, please let this white boy get up off this floor, because if he doesn't, I am dead. And finally he got up and he came over and shook my hands, and that kind of diffused the crowd.
In his junior season, the Mountaineers lost the NCAA championship game to California. West scored 160 points in 5 games and won the Most Outstanding Player award of the Final Four. But it wasn't enough to kill the pain of defeat.
I've tried to reflect back on that game a lot, and it's something that I probably have kind of blanked out, because it was the first of many painful experiences I had in losing in the finals.
Jerry and I roomed together for years later with the Lakers, and that game was always something that stuck in his craw, because he just felt that if he could only get one more shot at it, he could have won the ball game.
West would be denied redemption the next season when the Mountaineers were knocked out of the 1960 NCAA tournament in the second round. But the two-time All-American kept building a national legend. In a second victory at Kentucky, West was never more heroic, recording 33 points and 18 rebounds despite suffering a broken nose.
This one was awful, and I didn't think it was possible for someone to bleed that much, but at halftime they kind of got it under control, and I wanted to play.
If you were a Kentucky fan, you got the credit for breaking his nose, which I'm not proud of at all. And if you weren't a Kentucky fan, you got blamed for breaking his nose.
These Kentucky fans said, get him a powder puff, get him a powder puff.
And he came back in the second half. I think he had 23 points in the second half and just absolutely killed Kentucky.
He had cotton in his nose, and the guy put on a show.
He would just run by the bench, no mask, no nothing, broken nose. He wouldn't come out of the game. Blood running out, he'd just wipe it off with a towel and continue right on down the court.
Adolph Rupp, he said, son, he said, you're the greatest I've ever seen, and I've seen a million of them.
It was a pretty exciting night for me personally. When I look back on it, I said, boy, you were really crazy for doing that. And when your teammates can't even look at you, there's blood everywhere. I remember my shoes. We wore white shoes, and my shoes were red.
And that night, he was in the room, and he got in a tub, and his the blood just was rolling everywhere.
About 5 or 6 years ago, I received in the mail a towel that had blood all over it. And this kid had picked this towel up and saved it for years, and he sent it to me from that night.
People back in West Virginia still love to talk about Jerry West and the folklore of Jerry West. And the stories I go back up there and you hear, they're not exaggerated, they're real.
What is not included in the legend of Jerry West is a theme of falling short that followed him throughout his NBA career. Rome, 1960. The United States Olympic basketball team is co-captained by Jerry West and Oscar Robertson. But just a few months earlier, West expected to be cut at the trials.
So when he had a really bad game that first game, I think he went like 1 for 13. He just didn't shoot well. he felt he wasn't going to make the team, and his whole heart was set on making that team.
And I told him, I said, Jerry, you know, if you don't make another basket the rest of this tournament, and we win, you're going to go, and if you don't go, I won't go. And I would never have gone if they didn't beat Jerry West in that team.
There's so much politics involved with that because the AE was very, very strong then. And they made sure they got some of their players on the team. It was an all-night vigil just to pick the team.
Jerry, I think he scored 38 in the final game of the Olympic trials there against the Peoria Caterpillars, and he just went on.
While helping the U.S. win gold, the Lakers' #1 draft choice learned in Rome he would be reunited with his college coach.
I picked up the Stars and Stripes in Rome one day, and the first thing I read that Fred Schaus was going to be the coach of the Lakers. I said, well, that's great. I'll get a chance to play right away. Little to my surprise, it didn't happen that way, and I think the next day I saw that the Lakers were going to relocate to Los Angeles, and I was really excited about that.
Hot Rod, some of us call him Hot Dog, but anyway, he was walking around saying that West Virginia was taking over the Lakers.
Hot Rod was not half the athlete that West was. West really had all the tools that it took to play in the NBA.
While the Big O was tearing up the NBA, West struggled in his backup role with the Lakers.
I just wanted to be used in a more consistent manner. Some nights, if you played 20 or 25 minutes a night, and the next night you play 5 or 10, those are the things that I didn't understand.
But sometime after West made the All-Star team, Schaus inserted his gifted rookie into the starting lineup.
I did not want to bring Jerry along too fast. Here at West Virginia, we played him up front at a forward position. And going into the NBA, naturally, he's going to go to the backcourt and play guard.
In the 1962 season, the Lakers turned on two of the brightest lights ever to shine in the NBA. West and Elgin Baylor averaged more than 30 points each. It was the best 1-2 scoring punch in the game.
Well, Jerry was going good. You know, we'd get the ball to Jerry. If I was going good, I wasn't getting the ball. And most of the time, Jerry would do most of the shooting and scoring.
When Baylor broke his kneecap in the first game of the 1965 Western Division Finals, West went on the most prodigious postseason scoring binge in NBA history, averaging 46 points against Baltimore. Although somewhat cooled in a losing effort against Boston in the finals, West still managed 34 a game.
A remarkable feat of one man becoming a one-man gang. He was at his best. He was a player possessed.
If you got him to his spot, he didn't even look. I mean, it was up and in, and he went up like a shot. I mean, he'd get up and out, bing.
When Jerry and I were rooming together, he said to me, he says, I feel so in sync, I don't feel I'm ever going to miss a shot.
West's need to be perfect led to moments of absolute joy or periods of despair that approached self-torture, depending on the game's outcome. The word excuse was not in his vocabulary.
If he didn't come through and make the perfect play when it was needed, time after time after time, he would be so upset with himself that he could hardly stand it.
Once he hit the court, he was deadly serious about the job at hand. In big ball games, he would get so upset just before tip-off. He'd have to go back to the dressing room where he would regurgitate.
At one point, he had a sports car, and only one child could get in the car with him on the way back. And when they lost, nobody wanted to be in the car. And when they won, everybody did.
If he had a bad game, he did not rest. And believe me, having room with him, I can tell you this unequivocally, he did not rest until he rectified that bad game.
Once we were in the airport, just walking through an airport, and he called me over and said, "This is it, I'm through." My boss at the Herald Examiner, Bud Ferrillo, overheard it.
I got jazzed up about Jerry West telling me he was going to quit. I believed it.
And I said, "Bud, I've been through this 8 straight years. Don't take it too seriously." And sure enough, he came back and played about 3 more years.
On behalf of the players, we really appreciate your support. We're going to do our best to bring the championship here this year.
Bill Starman took over the Lakers for the 71-72 season. He had stature because he'd been a great pro himself. He was the most thoroughly prepared coach maybe in the history of basketball.
Step number one of Sharman's new system was moving 33-year-old Jerry West to point guard and Gail Goodrich to off guard.
Jerry sacrificed his scoring to lead the team in assists, and he also led the whole league that year in assists.